capitals? No, I don't think it's all capitals. Dr. Ferry, we're ready? Okay. Good morning. This is Commissioner Linker filling in. Dr. Moody is out with the flu unexpectedly, so where it says Dr. Lynn Moody will be Kathleen Linker in the agenda. So I'd like to take a moment to welcome everyone. I know it's for some people are on spring break. Some of us are getting ready to go on spring break, and it's a hectic time of year. So before we begin, we need to do a quick roll call.
Commissioner Tracy Arnold.
Here.
Commissioner Laura Austin.
Here.
Commissioner Jody Autry. Commissioner Kelly Browning.
Present.
Commissioner William Cheshire.
Here, ma'am.
Commissioner Edward Coggins.
Present.
Commissioner James Davis. Commissioner Angela Flowers. Commissioner Audrey Gadet. Commissioner Michelle Gray.
Commissioner Gray, present.
Commissioner Don Hester. Commissioner Hannah Jimenez.
Commissioner Jimenez, present.
Commissioner Kathleen Linker.
Commissioner Kathleen Linker present.
Commissioner Christopher Madden. Commissioner Christopher Madden. Commissioner Susan Mills.
Present.
Commissioner Lynn Moody. Commissioner Cassandra Morrison.
Commissioner Cassandra Morrison, President.
Commissioner Michelle Perry. Commissioner April Riddle. Commissioner Kim Robertson. Commissioner Lindsay Seiss.
Commissioner Lindsay Seiss, present.
Commissioner Lisa Springle. Commissioner Stacy Wood. Let me go back. Commissioner Christopher Madden. Counted 13 present. Commissioner Linker.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out what the time was.
Commissioner Madden says, I'm trying to talk, but they can't hear me. I can hear them.
It says he's self-muted and by me. Let's see if I can.
So that.
Now says he's self-muted.
I think maybe the same with Commissioner Hurst went off.
So he is present. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Madden, present. I was self-muted.
That's okay. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I have a total of 14.
Did you get a response from Commissioner Hester? Because hers had the
I
triangle.
did not get a response from Commissioner Hester.
We will move forward with the agenda because we have quorum. And next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the last meeting, which was in our folder. can I have everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Can we have a motion to,
Commissioner Linker, this is Commissioner Cheshire. I motion that we approve the minutes from March.
can we have a second?
Commissioner Arnold, second.
So Commissioner Chester made the motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Arnold seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye, yay, whatever. Aye. Aye. All opposed? So it looks like it's carried online. Do we have anything online if they approved or didn't approve? If you can raise your hand if you approve in your online, then we can visually. And you do have Commissioner Hester on because she just raised her hand.
Yes, Commissioner Hester, can you let us know if you can hear us? We have 4 hands up on virtual.
6, that's a good one. Okay, so it's passed unanimously. So the next thing is, and I don't know what I'm doing right, Dr. Fair, but I can't get it to.
Point it, see if you
I-
can. Hold on 1 second. Sometimes when I go to the go-to, now try it.
Oh, good job. So the next thing on the agenda is to talk about the advisor update. And we allocated some considerable time so we'd have some time for discussion in case there were any questions, because this is our last meeting before all the things that need to occur before we meet back in evaluation week. So I made a couple slides. So update on the process. Most of this information was in our folder. There's a form that says to do. April meeting to-do list, and some of the dates come from that document. So if you want to refer to that at a later time, it's in that folder for today's meeting, as well as the link to the flyer. So first of all, it's the flyer. The flyer we have the link to. And if Commissioner Flowers would like to add anything, just feel free to jump in. She designed it, and it is already out. I know the ELA listserv, I saw it on it last week, I think Friday. And as of yesterday, there were over 200 names already on it. So it's definitely out. We had asked for the EC and the EL and some other listservs, and I'm sure they all went out on the same day. I'm just not on the other listservs. And then as commissioners, we also would share the link to the flyer to any potential advisor. And on that flyer, Commissioner Flowers did a great job of capturing the general information for the advisors, like what they want to know, when, how much, would they get paid, logistics, arrangements. All that information's on the flyer, so I thought I would take a minute first and see if anybody has any questions about the flyer before we move on.
Mr. Hester, can you hear me, Mr. Linker?
Commissioner
Yes, Commissioner Hester.
Okay, can you come a smidge closer to the mic? It sounds like you're kind of far away.
I don't think I can get any closer, but is that better?
Yeah. The flyer looks great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So within the flyer is a link to the Google form that every potential advisor needs to fill out, even potential advisors that the textbook commission members have reached out to. Everyone has to fill in that Google form. And in that Google form is everything that the DPI will need when it comes to doing contracts, contacting if necessary, as well as the areas that they're interested in, what region they're in, which will help us when we go to identify the advisors that we're going to hire from the potential list. And so the next step is when it closes. So the form will close on May the 3rd. That's 2 weeks. That's a firm date. So it'll close. So if it needs to be, they need to have it filled out. It closes at a time. It won't work. The link will not work after that time. At the time that it closes, Dr. Fair is going to sort the general data into districts and upload each district's data into our folder, our commissioner folder. So then the next phase would be that in each district, the commission members of that district will get together and select their first choice and their second choice for the advisors. And that part of the work, which falls on the commission members, will be due, it says to me, but I have access to the folders, like you don't have to send me anything, but by May the 13th, because then I have to go in and make sure there's not any holes, and then at that point, when we indicate on the form the first, second, Dr. Fair's office will then send out to the potential advisors either yes, thank you for applying, we need you, or we don't need you at this time, but please keep the dates open, or no, thank you for applying, but, we don't need you at this time. So they will get a letter one way or the other, an email, one way or the other, to where their status is. And so we really need to adhere to these dates because the timeline for, like, the hotel has to know the exact number of rooms, who's going to be in the rooms, all of that stuff has to take place. And they have a deadline that has to occur. Is there any questions about kind of what the timeline is as far as the form and what we do with the information on the form? I think when you see it, especially if you're new, it'll make sense. If you open up the link, you'll see the kinds of questions that it asks. All of the questions will be headers across the top of the spreadsheet, and then the data will be filled in down the spreadsheet. So it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of information in it, but that's because different phases need different information, and it's easier to have it all in one place.
This is Commissioner Hester. I have a question for Commissioner Linker.
Okay. Go, Commissioner Hester.
Okay, so on May 3rd, the Google form will close, and then Dr. Fair will sort the data, and then she will reshare the Google folder with us.
She will put she will make a copy by each district, so we don't have to sort through the entire thing. So like the Southwest District will have a file for just Southwest District, and then in that would be the potential advisors for just the Southwest District.
So what I'll do is I'll make a Google folder for each district, and then I will sort by district, and then just put that particular district's spreadsheet in the folder. So if you were to go to the folder for Sand Hills, it's only going to contain those applicants who indicated that they're in Sand Hills. I think last year everybody had access to all the folders, but you knew which one you were supposed to use. But however, Commissioner Linker wants me to do that this year. But it'll be a folder and then the file in the folder.
And there will be go ahead.
Will it have the selection sheet for the first and second choices, will that be in that folder as well for us to make our selection?
Did you have a column last time?
Yeah. Well, last time we had two separate things. Last time, because we had two separate, I think it was a little confusing. So this time everything will be on that one where the data is. Dr. Fair will add a column at the end that says first choice, second choice, and no. And you would just choose first choice, second choice, or no beside the name of each potential advisor.
Excellent. Thank you guys for that clarification.
So is there any other discussion? I think for the new commissioners, when you see it, it will make a little more sense. And at that time, you have your commissioners that are in your district or any of us that have been on it were on it last year would be more than happy to help you.
For those of you who are online, please unmute yourself if you have questions. I'm doing a few things here, so I can't man the questions the entire time. There's a few here, so let me see if I can pop it out. But it would be faster if you would just unmute yourself. Can we ask ELA department to tweet the flyer? They already did. I talked with the section chief yesterday or day before yesterday, and she said that they tweeted it out. Is there anything else? See if there's anything in the chat. I think that was it.
So there's no other discussion about that point. We're gonna move on to. I think you may have to do whatever again. Back one. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the advisor selection. And we've talked about this briefly a couple of times, well, in the previous two meetings. But as we've said a couple of times, as we are committed to having representation across the state and within each district, there really should only be one potential advisor selected for each LEA or local education agency as the first choice. So each district will choose one advisor from K through 8, so kindergarten, one for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, one EL and one EC. I did get a chance to look at a rough idea of the number of bids, and there's not a whole lot for English 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I think we're good if we just pick 4 instead of 8 total. So this is a change. So when we had numbers, I took the odd number districts and gave them the 1 and 3. And then I took the even number districts and gave them English 2 and 4. But I listed the districts out. So if you're in the Northeast, North Central, Piedmont Triad, or Northwest District, if you will identify as a district one English 1 teacher and one English 3 teacher as your first choice. Now, if you for a second choice and you have a really strong English 2 or English 4 person, then you can, as your second choice, indicate that would be a good backup person. And then for the Southeast, Sandhills, Southwest, and Western districts, you would choose one, and that's a mistake. That's what happens, yeah, English 3, English 2, and English 4. Sorry, I made a mistake on that. So Southeast, Sandhills, Southwest, and Western districts would choose English 2 and an English 4. Again, if you had a really strong English 1 or English 3 advisor, you could indicate as the second choice, which would be our backup. Because we do have people that can't commit because things have changed, and so it's nice to have an already vetted backup list to easily come in and offer it to another teacher.
Katie, did you share this with us?
I think the whole slides will be posted in the folder. It's not now, but it will be. I think when we're finished.
It will be, okay.
And so I know before we adjourned last time, some of the district's commission members had gotten together and kind of divided out. And I know there's 5 of us in the Southwest, which is my district, and we've kind of, divided out who would hit each LEA or local agency so that we can divide and conquer. And so that seems to be a pretty good system. But having said that, there are 2 regions that only have 1 commissioner, one of which is a new commissioner. So within the Southwest, I actually haven't picked anything because that would leave me available to help out if anyone needs it. So if you're in a district and you're the only commissioner and you need help, don't feel overwhelmed. I'm available to help, as well as commissioners who've been on it in the past. But it looks like we do have a pretty good pool already, so I'm really pleased in that, you know, within 4 days of the window opening, there was over 200 applicants on it. So that's a good sign. So is there any questions about the advisor selection?
This is Commissioner Flowers, and I was wondering, does that include the AP courses as well?
We don't evaluate AP courses. That's not one of the one of the things on the criteria sheets.
Sorry, thank you, that was from the old days.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean someone might not choose to bid their AP materials for English 1 or English 2 or English 3 or English 4. Well, there's probably not AP 1, AP's 4. But they would be making their bid on the English 4 standards and criteria sheet.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Feel free. It's the last time we meet till we show up.
This is Commissioner Austin, and I have a question. You're saying one advisor from kindergarten through 8th grade?
Yes.
So it's kindergarten first, it's not just one from K-8. So it's each grade level in that span.
Mm-hmm. Yes, originally we had said one for every grade level, but high school we didn't have the number to have 8 advisors for each course. So for the district, you would be looking at 13 total, one for K, one for first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, EL, EC, and then 2 of the English either 1 or 3, or English 2 and 4.
This is Commissioner Austin again, and so do we need to find an EC specialist for elementary, the K-8 span, and then for the 9-12 span?
Good question. You feel like we had enough last year, EC? I feel like we had to ask them to move around.
Commissioner Hester.
Yeah, Commissioner Hester.
Typically, the licensure for special education
Is the whole
teachers
thing.
is K through 12. So they should be knowledgeable of all the criteria, but that doesn't mean that we might not want to break it up.
I can do that. It's really easy. I already have the odd and the even number ones divided out. I just wondered that 4 would give us enough.
Commissioner
4
Morrison.
total?
No, we would do bands like we did last time. We did 4 for elementary, 4 for middle, high.
Commissioner Morrison speaking, my only concern with that is when we actually got into the work, they were pulled. They were spread too thin.
And we had to move them around.
We had to move them around a little bit too much, and they rushed to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need more.
Yeah, and we do have more materials to look at from what I've seen glancing at the sheet.
This is Commissioner Susan Mills speaking. So you're saying we do need more of the EC? Is that what we're looking at? Or
I think the question was, are we going to decide, because we said 1 EC and 1 EL, which gives us a total of 8.
1 per district.
1 for district. But are we going to
whole
say the even numbers get the elementary and the odd numbers get middle and high?
okay, thank you.
Or we can just say you can pick 1 as your first preference and 1 as your second preference, and then I'll make the decision.
This is Commissioner Austin again, and I make a motion that we divide it out because of the expertise in K-5 span, middle.
Right, it's
and then
different.
high.
We would probably do K-5 and then 6 through 12 as 2 bands. No?
I do. This is Commissioner
Yeah.
Arnold. I would do elementary, middle, and high.
I
Separate?
agree.
So you have motions here.
All right. We don't have to vote on it. We just talk about it, so we're
Well, she
good.
didn't make, she
Yeah.
made a motion.
I think I went to sleep. So, Trying to figure out how we equitably,
still
because
have
you do
the
4
eight
elementary,
districts.
2 for middle, and 2 for high. I mean, 2 for high. Is that enough?
That's what I was saying.
I mean, if we
How many
break
bids do we have so far?
I don't know, because the way they're not straight numbered. It's like alphabet letters, and then
Any
The number?
estimates?
was 100 pages.
Commissioner Morrison speaking again. When you're looking at elementary school, when you're looking at K
5.
5, you're looking at a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then
That's
it
true.
tapers to 6, 8, and so you might only need 2
2 of each.
in high school, but you'll probably need 3 in middle school, and you need, I would dare say, 5. If you're looking at ESL and EC, you're going to stack it in elementary, because that's where you're going to have multiples, and that's where you're going to use most of them. And that's where, when we were in the 6, 8 room, we had to hurry up and move them from the 6, 8 room back down to elementary, and they were rushing to get the job done in the 6, 8 room, and so we were rushing them down to elementary. So, and we're talking about reading materials versus,
Is it too much to have, Commissioner Arnold speaking, is it too much to have one per district for K-5 and then half the middle school and the high school? Is that?
I mean, I
is it-
think
are
we
there
can
still
do it
8
because
districts?
we cut our English 1, 2, 3, and 4 advisors in half from our estimate. So I think we've got some wiggle room for that, to do that. Everybody gets a K-5 and then split middle and high.
Okay, one K-5
Yeah.
EC and EL, or just?
Yes. All right, so update, and I'll, it'll be in the minutes, and I'll try to put it in, add to the slide here and resend it to Dr. Fair when we finish. Every district, all 8 districts will find one K-5 EC and EL. And in addition to that, the Northeast, North Central, Piedmont Triad, and Northwest, which are the odd number districts, can take middle grades, which is 6 through 8, which would leave Southeast, Sandhills, Southwest, and Western districts, which are the even, to take high school, which is 9 through 12. And they were to indicate on the Google form what area they preferred or were more comfortable. So that data will be in the spreadsheet for you to be able to figure out, if they're easy, what their comfort zone was. Is there any questions about that change? Okay, so I'll repeat it again. So we have made 2 changes from the original plan. We cut the number of advisors needed for English language arts and English 1, 2, 3, and 4 in half. We talked about that earlier. And we increased the EC and EL advisors based on the amount of materials that we'll have specifically in the elementary room. Every district will hire 1 K-5 EC and EL. And then the odd number districts, which are Northeast, North Central, Piedmont Triad, and Northwest, will add 1 6-8 EC and 1 6-8 EL. And then the even number districts, which are Southeast, Sandhills, Southwest, and Western, would add 1 9-12 EC and 1 9-12 EL advisor. And again, they were asked to indicate what area they they're asked what are they currently teaching and what are they comfortable. So you'll have that data to help you select the range for EC and EL. Is there any other questions or discussions? Okay, so with that, we will move on to the Evaluation Week logistics. And we have not talked a whole lot specifics about Evaluation Week for the new commissioners, other than the fact that you know where we'll be in the dates. So the Evaluation Week is July 8th through the 13th. It is in Greensboro at the Embassy Suites. Our work starts on the morning of July the 8th, so the commissioners can come in on the 7th if you're more than 35 miles away. And so here's the kind of what I tried to break it into a more specific timeline, but I will say everything that's in here pretty much came from the invitation. So the information's also in the invitation if you want to refer to that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sykes, is it June or July?
It's June. It's July. See, that's what happens when
That's
you
okay.
do it.
It's okay, we're too close to spring break, it's understandable.
Yes. July 8th, that's the day that we start. The publishers have to set up the room. They put their materials out. That's between 9 a.m. and 12. They have to be finished by 12 o'clock. And commissioner members, our task is we're in the room with the publishers, and when they indicate that they are ready for us to check them off, there's a checklist. And we go through with the publisher. We try to do 2 commissioners with each publisher. And they'll just say, they'll show you where everything is that's on the bid sheet, because everything that's on the bid sheet should be represented. 2 sets of everything that's on the bid sheet should be represented. So you'll check that everything's there. You will check that the technology components are there, that they need to have laptops. The laptops are there, that they're working. They'll have contact information if there's to troubleshoot the technology that's for commission members, not for advisors to contact. So we go through the check sheet that everything's there, and then the publisher signs off, and the commissioners that go through the checklist sign off. And that takes, they show up at 9. They're usually not ready before 10. They're setting up multiple rooms, because generally the same publishers will be in all 3 rooms. There will be a K-5 room, there will be a middle school room, 6-8, and there will be a high school room. So that's kind of how the first day goes, the morning. Then after lunch, and I'm not sure, I don't have the exact dates, but after lunch there will be the advisors that are coming in from outside 35 miles that are staying. They'll be coming in to check into the hotel, and there will be some portion of the DPI training for the commission members and advisors, because we get training on, the advisors get training and we sit in on everything that we've already got trained in. The content, what they showed us last time, ELA, we'll talk about their criteria sheet. EC will talk about theirs. EL will talk about theirs. And then either that evening or early the next morning, it'll finish, and the TOPS team will talk about the platform and the logistics for evaluation. So that is basically the July the 8th. Is the morning would be just for textbook commission members, would be the publisher's display and presentation, and then in the afternoon is the advisors will start arriving and checking into the hotel, and then we'll have training that afternoon. On July 9th, any evaluation training that's not completed from the 8th would take place, and then we break into the evaluation sessions, which is where the bulk of the work is for the remainder of the week. So in the evaluation session, textbook commission members will facilitate the review of the publisher's materials at the site. And basically, we're just in the room if we need to troubleshoot, if they can't find something, if they have a question, or they have a technical difficulty, then you're the contact person to help them with that. Are there any questions?
Excuse me just a minute. Someone who's online, if you could mute yourself, we're hearing a noise come through.
Sounds like a microphone.
Can someone mute themselves? There's a noise coming through. If you're not already muted, can you mute if you're online?
It's getting louder. It says getting louder.
The connections down.
See if it's,
Somebody
See if
can
it's
call me
mad.
and show you who the sound's coming from.
see if he's tracking.
Just this phone call. Tell him he's muted. Dr. Farron, I don't know if this would be the problem. I do know that Commissioner Riddle indicated she was on earlier and got knocked off, so I don't know if that would be, even, she's not showing up as being on.
It was him.
I think you have to do whatever so I can. So for July the 10th through the 13th, the evaluation sessions will continue. The textbook commission members will again still be facilitating in the room. And near the end of the week, so at this point I can't really say when, but hopefully given the number of bids, probably high school, I'm thinking, would probably end on the 12th. If they're finished. If not, then we'll do it the 13th. But we basically are done by 2 o'clock on the 13th. So usually we start debriefing late mid-afternoon after lunch on the 12th for the courses that had the smaller amount. And so that would be what we call the debriefing session. And so the debriefing session is the Tech Commission members will facilitate the debriefing for the advisors as they provide an overview of their evaluation, and that would be after that particular grade level or course has completed their evaluation. And what that looks like is that the commission members will be seated at a table, kind of like we sit here. It may not be U-shaped, it may be straight across. And basically we call by bid number, and the evaluators that evaluated that material will come and sit in the front row, and they will give us a general impression. Yes, they felt like it met the criteria. No, they didn't. And any key points that they really feel that they want to point out, although we do have everything that they've done digitally, it just gives them a chance to give you the highlights that they really want to hit on. And it's a pretty quick process. And that's the debriefing. Now, of course, when we have the debriefing session, the advisors who are still evaluating will be in a room without commissioners, but they will be told that if they need anything to come to the room where we're debriefing, and somebody can come out and help them. And so that will be, usually we start the debriefing on the 12th, we'll finish it up on the 13th, and before, I think 2 o'clock is when we said the publishers might possibly be able to come and break their stuff down. So when we finish debriefing the evaluators, then your work as commission member is finished for the week. Dr. Fair or I or someone will hang around and make sure the publishers get their stuff out and that there's not any problems with that. And that is it. I will tell you that, and I thought I put it in a file. I guess I didn't. I did make a Google form to make room assignments, and most because I'm trying to learn new commission members, but a lot of them have been virtual, so I can't put a name to a face to know your comfort zone or where you prefer. So is a quick Google sheet. I shared the link with Dr. Fair. One of us will mail it out to you guys. Just which room do you prefer to be in, the elementary, the middle, or the high? And then I need to know when you're going to come so I can make sure that each room's got representation for the check-in. That's pretty critical because it's an important part that we make sure everything's there, and if there's only 4 commissioners there for 4 rooms, it gets a little hairy, and it can delay because they can't stop until they're checked out, and we want everything to be done by 12, but if there's not enough of us to check them out, then they have to wait for us. Which also means that as commission members, we don't get to the training because we're trying to check in because there wasn't enough of us to check in, if that makes sense. And if you can't be there the night before, that's okay. And really the first 2 hours are kind of slow. It's the last 2 hours where it really kind of picks up pace. And it's really helpful. The goal is to assign you to the room that you're in the whole time. So you'll be in the room that you check in the material. Will be the room that you're also in facilitating because you'll know where the materials are. And so it's easier for you to help the advisors if they can't find a certain book to find where it would be. You'll also, as you're assigned to that room, kind of keep an eye on the pacing because that's how we'll know who's ready to debrief based on the feel for the room and how their work's progressing. When they do their evaluations, we can see it live as they're doing it. And so the first day as a commissioner, good practice is to kind of look over their sheets. That way you're getting the information that you want because we want to make sure that they are giving us comments, specific reasons why they're saying yes and no. And that's all part of their training. So they'll hear all that before we start. And then you're another person who can say, hey, I see that you said yes 3 times and no twice, but I need a little more reasons to why. What did you find to support it or what did you not find? It's easier to do that while they're in the one that they're evaluating because when they move on to another one, it's hard to refocus back to something you've already evaluated, if that makes sense. And again, that kind of picks up. Once the advisors get the flow for how the process works and the criteria sheets work, then they kind of pick up speed a little bit as they're used to the process and they spend less time on the process and more time on the content of it. So there will be a Google form that'll go out. If you guys can just quickly indicate your preferences so then I can have the room assignments and I can shoot them out so you'll know where you're going to be, and that'll be the room. I asked for your first and second preference. I really think first preference is usually not a problem. The only time it will be a problem is if there's not enough people showing up to check in, and then I'll have to maybe move people to second preferences. So that's a really quick overview of evaluation week. Again, it makes more sense when you're there and it occurs. It is a fine oiled wheel. Everything works really smoothly. It's for those of us that were on commissioners last year, and it may have been your first year, having everything in one house will be easier. Staying in the hotel that the evaluation takes place at, although the location of the evaluation site last year was really good. The technology was spot on. The resources were really good. It'll be a little easier to have the advisors actually in the building where we're staying, they're staying, the meeting rooms are, and so that'll just make it a little easier. So is there any questions about evaluation week? And I understand that this is coming after the week of the 4th of July. And a lot of vacations run Saturday to Saturday. So that's totally I understand that. I think everybody understands that. So, like, if you can't come Saturday night, at least try to come in Sunday morning.
Wait a minute.
Oh, it's a Monday. Sorry, it's a Sunday and a Monday.
I was gonna
yeah.
say,
If you can't come in, if you can't come in on Sunday,
right?
yeah, come in on the morning. If you can't come in on the 7th, come in the morning of the 8th.
Commissioner Licker, you might want to remind them that with the check-in starting at 9, that they may want to come at whatever time you think it's a good time to get.
Oh, to start.
situated with
Yeah.
things.
So for those that are there the night before, we probably need to be in the room by 8:30, so that we're there to greet the publishers 8:45, because they're there ready to roll when the time opens. If you're coming on the 7th, yeah. If you're coming on the 7th, then we need to be in the rooms by 8:30. If you're driving in the morning of, just get there as soon as you can. Like, if you're driving to Greensboro from the coast, that's a good 2 hours. So, if you're there by 10, that's really helpful, because from 10 to 12 is going to be the crunch, because they've had time to put their stuff up and they're ready to check out, especially the ones that are in 3 different rooms, because you have to check them out in each room. So they need the people in the elementary room to check them off, so then they can run to the middle school room, and then that room can check them off, and then they run to the high school room, and that room can check them off.
Commissioner Licker, how many people do you need to be there to do the check-in?
Well, I'd like to have everybody there, but I know that there are some conflicts. So I need at least 2 to 3 in a room, because we always do 2 commissioners to check in the publisher. I mean, 4, I would love 4.
And could I speak to that?
Yes, go right ahead.
Commissioner Morrison speaking. What we do is really critical, and it's really good for you to be there, because you're looking at the bid sheets, you're looking at what the publishers are bringing in, and you're getting your eyes on everything, and so then your advisors are going to come in, and they're going to need some guidance. And if you didn't check it in, it's so hard not to know where everything is. But if you've checked it in, and what you have to do at check-in is you have to count, you have to see where everything is, you have to go through the box, you have to make sure it's there, so that when advisors come in, your eyes have been on it. So you actually know where it is, you've seen the title, you're just familiar with it. And it helps so much. The first year I did it, it was a little bit harder, but and I've always done check-in. I've always been there in time to do check-in. So that makes it so much easier when you do check-in. If you don't do check-in, you're coming in like the advisor. So you don't know where everything is either. So you're just kind of, let me go ask somebody. And so then they're kind of uneasy, because you don't know where the stuff is either. And so the other thing about check-in is that there's a little dance with the publishers, that you're not responsible for some things, and you'll get to that, but there's some check-in responsibilities, and we're saying as commissioners, we follow that. We've put our stamp of approval, and that those processes have taken place. And if we just show up when the advisors show up, we don't know for sure that they've taken place, even though we say as commissioners, we've been there and we've done that. So this is what we're here for. This is the Super Bowl. So it's kind of like doing all the work and not going to the Super Bowl game, and showing up at halftime. So it is really important for the check-in to be there. It's kind of like not knowing what the game plan is. Okay.
I would definitely suggest that for those commissioners, I know that some people may have some conflicts, but for those of you who can't stay at the hotel because of your the distance that you are away from the hotel, I would still recommend, if you can be there by 8:30, that you need to be there, so that we know how many commissioners we have. You can get the sheets and everything. I'll make that information available to you in the folder. I'll be creating another folder for that week with things in there that you'll need, but the checkoff sheet will be in there. You can familiarize yourself with that. But I do agree with Commissioner Morrison. It would be great for everybody who can be there, even if you're driving in for the week that day, if you could be there for that check-in process, and that would make it a lot smoother, so that it would be just 2 or 4 trying to go from room to room to room to room to room, because there'll be a lot of movement going on, because all of the publishers will be there from 9 to 12, all of them. That is not staggered, and so the assistance will be needed from everyone to make it a lighter load, so that not everyone, 2 or 4, are just kind of running around, because that could really put us in a situation where we're trying to hurry up and get things checked in by 12 o'clock, because we only have that window. They have a window of time, and we have that same window of time for checking in. It's their responsibility to get checked in, but you all do the checking in. So we just need the manpower as much as possible if you can be there.
This is Commissioner Arnold. This is an important process, and I hate to keep beating that horse, but if we don't have things right, then the whole week is truly thrown off if everything is not there where it's supposed to be, and if it's not labeled as it's supposed to be. The other thing I was going to say, and we have a lot of newer publishers who are doing all electronic or technology-oriented pieces. We need to make sure that it's properly working, and maybe even when you're checking out, make sure that you know how to run those technological pieces, because they can sit there and show you very, very quickly. And then a lot of times our trouble comes in when the advisors start to manipulate the technology. It doesn't work quite as well as it did when they were doing it. So we almost need to try it out, test it, don't just check it off, really go through and make sure that everything is properly working, because then we have to call them back and then they have to come back out, and it puts things behind. So anything that we can do to be proactive to keep trouble from troubleshooting, basically, is what we're doing for the whole week, and making sure all the pieces and the parts are there.
Is there any other discussion?
Flowers, and I just typed in a couple questions. Do you think 3 hours is a long enough window? No, not knowing how many commissioners are actually going to be on board, and should commissioners be assigned to certain publishers or rooms?
So we are making room assignments. That's what the Google form is for, so I know where commissioners prefer to be, so I know how many commissioners are coming in, so I can make sure that there's at least 4 commissioners in every room. And if we do our part, that's plenty of time. I mean, if the commissioners show up to check in the stuff, the 3 hours is plenty of time. The publishers are already always ready. It's just if there's not enough of us there, they have to wait for us. Does that answer your questions?
Maybe we could go ahead and find out who already knows.
Well, and that'll be in the Google form. So in the Google form that you'll get the link to is what room would you prefer to be in, and what days do you know you can be there. And I even broke the first day into morning and afternoon. I know something may come up in the middle of the week, and you need to, go to a meeting. I know there's a lot of 12-year employees on the commission. They may have something they need to run back for and then come back in the middle of the week, which is fine. And when we are in the room, as long as there's coverage, and you work that out with your room, you don't have to sit in the room for 5 days from 8 to 5, as long as there's commissioners, and each room works together and kind of figures that out. But if you'll fill out the Google form so that I know what room you prefer and the days that you know that you can be there, so then I can make the room assignments, and then I'll get that back out. So you'll know ahead of time, this is the room, and here's who will be in the room with you. Hopefully that will make sure that there's enough people in every room for check-in. Does that answer your questions, Commissioner Flowers?
Yes, thank you.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Cheshire. I'm following everything, and it all sounds like, we've all been here before. But I do have one question. Will there be a requirement for the commissioners to bring their copies of textbooks and instructional materials that week? No.
The publishers bring everything. You bring
on site.
nothing. Yourself. You might want a laptop so that you can see all the virtual live stuff. So, I mean, you need some way to get on the internet so you can see through the platform to help you monitor what the evaluator's doing and to take notes when they debrief. But no, we don't need to bring our samples. That's for us. I uncheck, and we didn't even really talk about that. So that's a good point. I'm going to take a little sidebar. We get all our materials. There is a window that is delivered. Everyone's already given their sites, so all that is being sent out if it has not already been sent out. So you'll get everything that's in that room, all those rooms. Everything that you get will be in the rooms. And if it's not in the rooms, we can't evaluate it. Your stuff is for you to do your evaluation. So as soon as the stuff gets there and you get it checked in, you can start looking at it. And then after we have the evaluation week, if there's some things that you notice a trend, you can go back and look in your stuff again. It is for you to use, then you've got the whole window access to it. But it is the publisher's responsibility to bring 2 sets or access, 2 computers to access digital materials for everything that they've submitted to the site. And then they're responsible for setting it up. We're just responsible for making sure that everything is there. Because if it's not there, we have to indicate it's not there. So. Are there any other questions online?
I didn't see.
I didn't see anything. Okay. So I am a little earlier. I thought I was going to have a lot of extra time.
Commissioner Arnold speaking. Dawn Hester wanted me to ask, the people who have already come in, the 200, do we have access to that Google form?
No, I don't have access to it. I just
Not yet.
briefly looked to see. I just looked at it to see. There's still e-procurement, or it's not called procurement. Yeah, the warehouse. They're still finalizing the official document, and then we will have access to it. I just briefly looked at it to see how many it looked like number-wise.
We were just about the bid list?
Yeah, the bid list, the bid sheet.
Advisors, we're trying to figure out the people that have contacted us. We're trying to figure out, who's already looked at the Google
I haven't made
form.
it available yet because people are still actively entering things into it, and I just don't want anything to
Make a glitch.
disappear or
Gotcha.
anything. If there's anyone that you want me to specifically check on, you can send me an email,
Okay.
and I can let you know. But I will make that available, whenever I split it up in the folders, but just to be sure that everything is okay and we don't lose any information.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I don't have access. I have not seen that. I just went on the form myself to see what the form looked like.
Ma'am, Commissioner Cheshire again. Hey, just kind of looking at the schedule, and we're kind of talking evaluation, week logistics, and there's been some sidebars and kind of all over the map
Yes.
here. It's all great information. I'm under the assumption, well, my first question would be, should we as individuals get a hold of the hotel and make our own arrangements, or is that all taken care of through?
For this one thing,
This one-
they'll handle it all because they're making reservations for us and the advisors.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have to make reservations. DPI handles, and they'll handle the hotel Embassy Suites for logistics purposes. And in case anyone asks you, because I'm not sure that was in specific, Embassy Suites provides breakfast as part of the hotel. And commission members, Dr. Fair, we are going to do lunch together, as commission members.
Yes, the commissioner.
So you'll be on your own for dinner, but you'll get reimbursed for dinner.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't get reimbursed for breakfast because it is provided at the hotel, and then DPI will provide commissioners. We'll have lunch. there in the hotel. And then dinner's on your own. And like I said, you will need, and you travel a lot, so you know this, but you will need a credit card. They're not going to charge anything on your credit card, but they require a credit card for what they call incidentals. From past experience, I will tell you, don't give them a debit card unless you want a $500 hold. It takes about 2 weeks to clear. So, but other than that, will be reimbursed at our rate for mileage after the fact, and for dinner, and DPI handles everything else. You're welcome. So I think we're finished with the advisors and evaluation week. Anyone think of anything else? Okay. So that, the agenda purposes, we're about 20 minutes early. Dr. Fair, do you want, because we have lunch at 11:30. Do you want to talk about the reimbursement really quick, move it up, or are you?
It's nothing but passing out the forms. I can if everybody wants.
Well, then that way, then after lunch, then we'll do the platform and we can adjourn.
I would say, in reference to the reimbursements, please be sure that as soon as you get back, that you send Susan your parking receipt, because she has to wait to submit until she gets that receipt. And so I think the last time it was a while before some sent them in, and we ended up having to resend emails and things like that, and it just prolongs when you're going to get your reimbursement. So if you would please, just as soon as you get back, if you could just slip that receipt right on into the envelope and get all of that sent back to her. She'll get on it as soon as she gets it, and make sure that you get the reimbursement. And I don't know if she mentioned to the commission last time, but she is retiring next month, and so you all really need to make sure that you get this in so that she can get it taken care of. And there's quite a few of you here today. And if you need a sub form, let me know when I come back.
And if you are online and you need the sub form, if you can indicate in the notes or send Dr. Fair an email so she can get you that form for your sub. I know at least one person.
Send it to Susan.
I'm sorry, send it, if you'll send it to Susan, to her email, then she can send you the form. If you don't have Susan's email, if you shoot me an email, I'll look for it and send it back.
Send my children to send
Without the noise.
Just wants to make sure.
I can make that something. Thank you.
So make sure, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I think Susan has been to the meeting a couple of times. She's been a couple of times just to kind of go over. So I think you probably understand how to do the paperwork by now. But if you do have any questions that I'm not able to respond to today, just send her an email and she'll get back with you. She's out this week, but we'll be back next week. So she'll respond to you when she gets back.
I'm showing this being muted.
He's muted. Okay.
I'm showing this being muted.
All right. Okay. He's got his hand up, but he's muted. Okay. Thank you.
And please be sure, usually she's able to put the names on the envelopes, but we weren't sure at the time when she did these who was going to be attending. So if you could please make sure that you go ahead and write your name on your envelope. And if you need more than one envelope, if you're leaving something with me today and you need to take something and send it back, let me know. Did everybody get reimbursement? And those who needed sub forms, and envelopes? Did I get everybody?
for those of you that are online, at this point, we're just getting our forms for reimbursement. Again, if you need, if you need a sub, there's a form that needs to be filled out. If you can shoot Susan an email. If you're not sure what her email is, if you email me, I'll find her address and send it to you. But Dr. Fair did say she is retiring at the end of the month. Next month. Yeah, so I'm sorry. Susan is retiring. Everybody just had a heart attack with that one. Susan is retiring at the end of next month. End of May? End of May? So you really want to get that paperwork in so that it gets processed before she's gone.
Leave this with you, right?
I think, what if we just take, we turn this around? This is just for parking, right?
Yeah, and it's okay. I got two.
So at this time, we're going to stop the meeting so we can finish out our paperwork and then adjourn for lunch. We will resume the meeting at 12:30, and at that time, we will do a roll call again. So if you're attending virtually, you'll need to make sure that you're on and everything's accessible so that we can do roll call to establish, make sure that we have quorum established.